Premier League's profit and sustainability rules are sold to us as financial fair play, a way to keep clubs from going bust. But there are those who feel it's starting to look a lot like a system that protects the big boys and keeps the rest in their lane. Here's how it works and why people feel that way. So clubs can only lose 105 million quid over 3 years, which sounds fair, but here's the kicker. Your limit includes how much you earn. So if you're one of the traditional top 6, you've got massive global revenue streams and you can spend way more while still technically following the rules. Meanwhile, ambitious clubs who've got money like Newcastle, Villa or Forest, well, they're bringing a knife to a gunfight. Newcastle might be backed by Saudi billions, but they just can't splurge the cash. Their commercial income isn't there yet. Want to buy world-class talent? Well, PSR says to them, your owner might have the money, but you're not making enough in shirt sales in Asia for that. The Magpies won their first domestic trophy since 1955, qualified for the Champions League, which you'd think would be a great springboard for them to go on and start building a team to challenge at the top. But because of PSR restraints, they couldn't break their wage structure for a new Alexander Isak contract, and look what's happened there. Nottingham Forest tried to invest to survive. They did that, but they got punished anyway. Meanwhile, clubs like Spurs, until last season, hadn't won a trophy in over 18 years, but because they rake in cash from the new stadium, they get a much bigger PSR allowance than a newly promoted club who are just trying to stay up. And let's not forget the loopholes these big boys are exploiting. Chelsea found the trick with those long contracts, selling the women's team. City are masters of related party sponsorships. Etihad this, Etisalat that, all within the rules, and fair play to them for capitalising on those opportunities. But what about the smaller clubs? They don't have that luxury. Now look, financial sustainability matters. Nobody wants another Bury or Morecambe situation. But there's increasing concern that rather than levelling the playing field, the current rules cement the existing hierarchy. So what's the solution? Well, either loosen the reins so ambitious clubs can spend within their means, or cap spending based on something other than revenue. Otherwise, we're just watching the same 6 teams swapping silverware most seasons while the rest play musical chairs for 7th. And that, folks, ain't what the Premier League was built on.
Morning. Welcome to Sunday Edition with myself, Shaun, Custis and Henry Winter. Man United win, but were you convinced? Ruben Amorim is still under pressure, and a man who helped turn the screw last week, Grimsby boss David Artell, will be joining us at 9:30. Controversy at every turn as Chelsea beat Fulham at Stamford Bridge, with VAR their man of the match. Bin it now, I say. And what of poor Chelsea striker Nicholas Jackson, who flew to Munich to join Bayern Munich on loan, but has been recalled by the Blues because of injury to Liam Delap? He's not happy. We'll have the latest on that and all the transfer news. It's Rangers v Celtic at midday, with both the big two smarting from Champions League exits, and it's a game neither can afford to lose. And we'll take a look at the England squad, with Henry totally crestfallen by the omission of Trent Alexander-Arnold. You can get in touch with us, show, text us on 81089, WhatsApp us, or call on us on 03717 22 33 44. And don't forget, we're live on YouTube and your smart TV, so have a look at that. Just search talksport.com/watch for more details. This is Sunday Edition on talkSPORT. Morning, Henry.
Morning, Shaun. How are we?
I'm good. I went to Chelsea yesterday. dramatic, controversial, good fun, everything wrapped into a game, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Yourself?
Obviously, with the back pages, the earlier deadlines obviously came too soon for Real Madrid's heroic victory over Mallorca, come from behind, and Trent Alexander-Arnold's lauded 68 minutes on the pitch. Look, we all know he needs to work on his defending, but I just found the yesterday's or 2 days, Friday's pile on him, and a certain glee in certain quarters about the fact that he wasn't in the England squad and he wasn't starting for Real Madrid. And look, Shaun, we've been doing this long enough, is that the players write the headlines, and within 24 hours he was delivering through balls to Mbappe, who was obviously caught offside, a couple of really important sort of defensive clearances as well. So anyway, I was just trying to introduce a little bit of perspective into the fevered world of football.
Well, let's hope your other client, Matt Edmondson, can redeem himself today, making it a good weekend for your
how many
team.
clients have you got? You've got a whole stable. Mine aren't clients. These are news stories, Shaun. And anyway, talking news stories, back pages, only really one place to start. Sunday Telegraph got a fantastic picture. They haven't mentioned the photographer. You got Kyle Walker of Burnley in the background, and you got Bruno Fernandes celebrating his last 97th minute winning penalty. Sam Wallace, chief football writer at Old Trafford of the Sunday Tell. Bruno conjures great escape. And I did find it slightly strange during this rather bizarre transfer window that he was being linked with a move to Saudi. I could understand why they would want them, why the finance obviously might sort of turn many players' heads. But there's no way Manchester United could afford to lose a player like him, not because he's captain, but because he is their most important player, even when he's playing out of position, although he played pretty well in a deeper role. Those crunch moments. And the thing is, and the photographs all over the place, Sunday Times and The Sun, and all over the place, just that passion in him shows how much he cares. And that is an issue at Manchester United.
I know, but you flip-flop around a bit on Fernandes, don't you?
Yeah, I do a bit,
you say, look, he's not a leader, and in a sense, not captain.
He's not a captain, but he is a leader in terms of...
He can be sometimes a bit of a problem for Man United with the way he behaves, and then you see him yesterday, and there's no doubt he cares. The joy he got from scoring that penalty in the winner, and how much pressure it relieved on him, the rest of the team, and going into an international break fortnight where you'd have had that.
Can you imagine it being 2-2?
2-2. Well... would have had a fortnight of Amorim out. Will he walk? What's happening down at the training ground? It would have been like that. So there's a lot of relief.
Yeah, there is. And it's something the Sunday Times sort of touch on in their headline on the front page, again with a picture of Bruno celebrating almost too much to bear, and then the picture of Amorim in the dugout, feet up like he's realised he's just missed the last bus home.
Now, you were a champion of Amorim when he came. Well, I'm not saying you were the only one. There was lots of people who were champions of Amorim, but his behaviour in the dugout against Grimsby and yesterday is odd.
It's not. I mean, this is the classic Manchester United debate from top to bottom about leaders, and I think we're used to Manchester United managers, and I think United fans would expect this. In fact, all fans would expect this. Their leader, their manager, head coach, to show some leadership, some defiance, some, a sort of beacon for players to turn to and look and say, right, we've got someone strong who's standing there, shoulder to shoulder with them. And obviously he wasn't in the penalty shootout, and he wasn't yesterday. I mean, he said he couldn't watch. I mean, that is...
I mean, Ten Hag got criticised sometimes for his lack of sort of emotion on the touchline, but at least he was on the touchline.
Yeah.
Amorim sort of... You look around and you think, well, where's he gone? I can't even see him.
I'm sure we'll come to someone who actually went down the touchline at Old Trafford, and Jose Mourinho. I mean, look, the image is just so important. The optics are so important. You set the tone. I mean, coming back to Mourinho, he always said, the match starts in the press conference. It's in your words. It's in the mood. It's in the image. Sir Alex Ferguson was an absolute master at it, of showing defiance, of sending messages in his body language as well as with what he said. So, yeah, look, and in terms of Amorim, absolutely. I mean, anyone who saw his Sporting Lisbon team, knows that he is a good manager. But I've been disappointed by his slight meekness, the fact that he is over-emotional in press conferences. There's a difference between over-emotional and being passionate. Your passion can come through in a strong way, but I think his comes through in a, well, it's just that uncertainty that he sets up. Also, the tactical stuff, I mean, you know, wing-backs rather than wingers, although Ahmad played well almost in both roles yesterday. So, yeah, but that was a huge moment for them yesterday.
He's off the hook a bit for a fortnight, probably, you know, and then he's got two huge games, Chelsea and Man City, coming up, which, who knows, as they say, may define his future.
Well, I think what might define his future is whether he gets a goalkeeper in. I mean, if they're talking, I mean, Tom Heaton is terrific, but Tom is 39
and has never played a league game for them.
And yeah, but
8 years.
Who would you rather have, Onana, Ben?
I don't know. I've not seen Tom Heaton play for donkey's years, Henry, so I haven't a clue.
I saw him train with England
Seriously,
last year.
I
agree.
You've got no idea what sort of form he's in.
No, I don't. I don't think anyone does. But I think Tom Heaton, in terms of communication, I think in terms of an element of certainty, I'm sure. I'm sure they'll try and get Simmons in. So
he's part of the leadership group.
He is part of the leadership group, and it's nice to know they do have a leadership group at Manchester United. There's no leadership from the Glazers, and Amran needs to show a little bit more. Anyway,
yes. What of poor old Nicholas Jackson? Anyway, which is also on the back pages and the front pages of the pullouts.
I don't want to go to Chelsea. I mean, I was watching. Well, you were there, and I was watching the Chelsea Fulham match, and when Delap got injured, I immediately started thinking about your old friend, the Club World Cup, and I know you're a huge supporter of the Club World Cup. And I thought that Chelsea might get one or two injuries, but actually later in the season or towards Christmas, because of the fact that so few of their players have actually had a proper rest in the summer. What I didn't then make the connection, which obviously far brighter minds than mine immediately did, is what Delap's absence would mean to Jackson's move to Bayern Munich. And a great quote from his agent of saying planes don't fly backwards, i.e. he's not going back to Chelsea. I mean, I can totally understand why Chelsea would want to recall him. The issue is say Delap is out for maximum 2 months with a hamstring, and then if Jackson plays in that time, what's he then going to do? Is he going to go and sit on the bench or go to Bayern in January? So you've got to feel for the player in this.
What if he does return, if he has to, and then he hits a hot streak, and then it can all change? It's funny sometimes. Football's a funny game, isn't it? Sometimes.
But he is going to be starting on the bench because João Pedro will play up top, and they've got Garnacho coming in wide, so they're not short of wide players. You don't need to play João Pedro out there. So, you've got to feel for Jackson. But you know what? If you're going to do an odd and wingy and hang around in a city waiting for a move to be finalised or scrapped, Munich's not a bad place to be.
Quickly on Mourinho.
Yeah, lovely piece by your colleague, Dave Kidd. Jose Mourinho, Big Edding, back to Prem, as in Big Ed, the new Clough. Rogue Jose's a special gift, just like Cloughie. I mean, he's certainly a gift to us in terms of, and you as a sports
You've written him off years ago, though. You think he's a has-been, don't you?
I can understand why chairman would want him, but I think you look at his career drift and he's not the special one anymore. But I can understand why, well, West Ham. I mean, I think that's a point that Kiddo makes in his piece about having him back at West Ham. It would be brilliant.
Is he the West Ham way, though? This is the question. Well, because we still don't totally know what the West Ham way is, but I think Jose isn't it.
No, he's more immediate than a project manager, and I know you don't like project managers.
Yes, would,
and the special one replacing Harry Potter would be great for headlines.
But more fun than, say, if he went to Nottingham Forest. It just wouldn't be quite the same for me. West Ham has that sort of febrile atmosphere around the place.
It does.
I think he would get the London Stadium on site. And
he would do. He would do. But also, Nottingham Forest have got a very good manager in Nuno Espirito Santo. And I understand all the Edu and the Marinakis tensions, but they would be mad to lose a manager of Nuno's quality when you saw what he did last season.
Right. This is Sunday Edition on talkSPORT, and next we ask whether VAR is having even more influence on Premier League games this season.
This is the talkSPORT Goal Show. It's the show for the fans that's done by the fans. Yes! Oh my God! Yes! Yes! Yes!
He is an unlocker of defences. That.
If you've got a problem or something to say,
You don't have the right to say anything about something. I do.
This nonsense kills the game.
Josh King scores his first goal for Fulham, and Fulham lead away at their West London neighbours.
Fulham 9 commits a careless challenge.
That is ludicrous. I can't accept that.
Enzo Fernandez, who rams it down the middle of the goal. It hit the legs of Leno, who dived to his right, and Chelsea somehow have a 2-goal lead that they barely deserve.
What about this? 5 minutes gone. Tottenham 0, Bournemouth 1. Evan Nilsson has put the cherries in front.
Iliman Ndiaye's second of the Premier League season, but it's the work again of Jack Grealish.
first half has been all about Jack Grealish.
My goodness, you can't believe your eyes. I think it's Jadon Anthony who's poked the ball into the back of the net. What is going on with these defences here today? Manchester United 2, Burnley 2.
It is Sunderland 2, Brentford 1. Wilson Isidore on as a substitute.
Wolves 2, Everton 3. They've just grown up. The boys have become men, and it's the substitute, Rodrigo Gomes.
Full time, Leeds 0, Newcastle 0.
Oh, and he's put it in the back of the net. Bruno Fernandes puts the ball in the back of the net. Manchester United 3, Burnley 2 from the penalty spot. A smash and grab at the end of this game.
Yeah, that's how the Premier League sounded on talkSPORT yesterday, with VAR taking centre stage where I was at Stamford Bridge. Josh King robbed of what might have been the best moment of his life by an alleged foul. Ruben Amorim blushes spared by Bruno Fernandes at the death. Tottenham, it says here on my list, played off the park by Bournemouth. I can't necessarily vouch for that, but they did lose at home. The bubble has burst. Wolves, no Strand Larson, losing 3-2 to the Grealish-inspired Everton. Sunderland beating Brentford, and possibly the worst game I've ever seen in my life. Leeds 0, Newcastle United 0. But we're going to concentrate on the on VAR. Why not? And Fulham boss Marco Silva lamented the decision to chalk off Josh King's first senior goal.
Everybody's shocked with the decision. Everybody that is fair looking for that moment is shocked. Our players, they are shocked. A dream moment for a young lad, 18 years old, that is playing at high level and showing his quality. Probably the dream moment for him is to play the first derby against Chelsea as a senior player in a Fulham shirt. Great goal from him, great finish, what a moment from him, and now goes on. And probably I would like to explain him why the goal was allowed, but I don't have the conditions I can show to him. And he's going to understand that football sometimes is not fair. In his career, he's going to understand that always what looks obvious and what looks that is the fair decision will not go in his direction. And it is a good thing for Josh to understand that football sometimes is unfair.
Now, if there's anyone on this earth who hasn't seen that clip, it's basically a pirouette by Muniz. He lands on Chalobah, who slid in. He gets up, releases Josh King, who goes away, sticks it away brilliantly. And then when VAR, I was there, and when they were calling for VAR, I initially thought it was for offside because it was a bit borderline. Nobody really thought there was anything earlier on. Chalobah was lying on the ground, but we didn't really know why. Took an age, first of all. Another weird thing is, I've noticed, is that now when a referee comes to make his explanation to the crowd, you've never heard silence like it. It's more than any sort of minute size. It's completely quiet. He explains it. Fulham fans go absolutely nuts, understandably. They show a quick clip on the screen and take it off. And suddenly Chelsea are buoyed by this. The whole dynamic of the game has changed for something which almost everybody in the game thinks wasn't a foul. It wasn't a careless act. He was just landing as he pirouetted.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, there is this thing called gravity. He's got to put his foot somewhere. He was actually doing a nice bit of skill, whether you want to call it the Zidane roulette, Thierry Henry, whatever. It was a good bit of skill. I thought Marco Silva was very, very clever afterwards, because he could have just launched into the referee, but he actually went in very subtly and he pulled at everyone's heartstrings, because he said, we've got this fabulous young talent who's had this moment ruined for him. And he's also now got to realise that it's harsh and that football isn't fair. So he was actually sort of building up the emotional narrative quite rightly around Josh King, because what an amazing moment that would have been, and for all the Fulham fans there to celebrate with him and just say, look what VAR is doing. Now, my sort of many sort of disappointments in this whole thing, because I think it's one of the worst VAR howlers we've ever seen, and we have to place this into context in terms of the VAR errors. I mean, the PGMO were very, put out the statistics at the start of the season. They've gone down from 35 to 31 to 18 errors in the last 3 years. So supposedly they're getting it better. But, the issue isn't with technology. The issue is with the individuals who are using it. Absolutely.
Well, they should be better by now. They've had enough practice, for goodness sake.
Absolutely, but they are not, and we all agree this is not a great generation of referees. We've got 2 or 3 exceptional ones, and clearly more is needed with specialist VARs. I absolutely get all that, but sometimes the referee has actually got to stand up. The on-field referee has got to stand up against VAR and said no. And, we keep on hearing about this thing, and I understand why Howard Webb says it. We want referees call, like you have umpires call in cricket, and you go with the on-field decision. And what we want is the referees to have the courage of their convictions to say, no, actually, I saw that at the time. It wasn't a foul. It was a contact in the flow of the game, and it should be a goal, and to stand up to VAR.
Yeah. Anyway, Burnley manager Scott Parker was also left very frustrated by some of the decisions against his team. Have a listen to this.
The game's just not the game that I knew. The game's become the most sterile, theatrical game there is. And we see that today, really. You can't celebrate anymore. I think you're probably a year away from no one ever celebrating a goal. You have to go through every single check from 2, 3, 4 phases before it. You have to check if it's offside, if it's onside. The human nature of the game in terms of referees and linesmen, games will be reffed by robots soon. There ain't no point. And obviously the decision today, while I understand he's got his shirt, on-field decision was no penalty. So at that moment, obviously, VAR has stepped in and deem it as a clear and obvious penalty. I don't think I'm being biased in any way. That's the way the game's gone a little bit, and that's just the way it is. That's we have to move with that.
Let's put aside the penalty which Burnley conceded, which I think we all
agree was a penalty.
Was a penalty. His wider point about the fact we're getting to the point where nobody will celebrate a goal because they won't know if there's something happened 4 tackles ago that's going to rule that goal out.
I mean, we've all interviewed, I'm sure you have, and I have interviewed Scott Parker down the years, going back to his, his playing days, and he's always been very measured, very sort of balanced, considered view of the game when he was a player and as a manager, and you could just detect that edge and that frustration in him about the game that he loves, which he graced. Remember the ad that he was in as a kid, sort of juggling the ball. He's very much what football should be about in terms of the expression of the skill, in terms of the consistency, the work ethic, and football has to listen to him. And the PGMO have to listen to him. And actually, Howard Webb keeps talking about a light touch. And we see that. We're going to go into the Champions League and everyone's going to say, oh, VAR really works in the Champions League. Or we're going to go to tournaments and on the whole, VAR tends to work there. Because maybe it's because they've got stronger, more self-confident officials in the middle, including some of our own, and actually have this lighter touch and not keep referring to the sort of, the forensic sleuths at Stockley Park who are just looking for offences, perceived offences or otherwise. So, yeah, I echo Scott's general views, but in terms of that was a penalty. And you can imagine the reaction of a lot of people if that hadn't been given.
Perhaps the PGMOL need an advisor among your many other jobs, perhaps you could take that one up, because I do think they need a bit of guidance about how the media is perceiving them, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Ben, who sort of works on that side for them, I mean, he's very experienced in the game. I mean, you and I know Howard Webb. I mean, we've been in a game when Howard Webb, poor soul, had to actually referee us chugging around the pitch at Bisham or wherever it was. So, look, Howard Webb cares about the game, but he's really got to get to grips with his VARs. And also, just say to the on-field referees, have the courage of your convictions.
Absolutely. Coming up next on Sunday Edition, we're speaking live to the Grimsby boss, David Artell, after he masterminded the week's biggest story. This is Sunday Edition on talkSPORT with Shaun, Custis and Henry Winter. You heard briefly in the news there, news on Johan Wissa. Henry's got more on it.
Yeah, Johan Wissa on Instagram. Over the past few weeks, there has been increased speculation about my future at Brentford Football Club. As a result, I wanted to speak directly and honestly about exactly where things stand. I've stayed silent for much of the summer, but with just hours remaining of the transfer window, I feel compelled to make it clear that I want to leave Brentford. I believe the club are unduly standing in my way, despite a series of fair offers throughout the summer. I've always given 100% for Brentford since the day I signed back in 2021. I'm proud of what we have built together and have never taken the opportunity to play for the club for granted.
Surely Newcastle haven't asked him to make that statement to hurry things along.
Slight echoes of Isak's statement.
Certainly is, but I think it's fair to say he wants to go, and it's going to be a lively couple of days in the transfer market, isn't it?
And you think he'll end up
well,
and then Isak goes?
Well, let's see. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It's hard to say, but we could be in for a very rushed last few hours. And of course, the transfer window shuts at 7 o'clock tomorrow rather than 11 o'clock. So it's all going to be very intense in the afternoon as opposed to the early evening. Anyway, we'll probably come back to that later. But the story of the week was without a doubt League Two Grimsby Town dumping Manchester United out of the Carabao Cup.
Burma with a little jogging run up has missed. It's in the underside of the bar, and Grimsby Town have knocked Manchester United out of the League Cup.
And one of the heroes of that victory was the Grimsby boss, David Artell, who I'm delighted to say joins us now. David, good morning.
Morning, fellas.
Morning, David.
Have you come back down to earth?
Yeah. Certainly after yesterday's first half performance, yeah.
Well, I was sort of going to mention that later on, but I mean, is it that you were so on a high after the Manchester United victory that it was very difficult to get everybody back together for a home game against Bristol Rovers?
Yeah, look, I still thought we deserved at least a point out of the game yesterday. I thought the second half performance, whatever sort of metric you look at, we were better. Across the whole game, the first game was even. They scored a good goal. But you've got to understand from my point of view that the players probably haven't been through that in their careers. So it's a learning point to go, actually, all the media stuff, all the emotional stuff, certainly the emotional stuff that you went through Wednesday night and all day Thursday and even into Friday, you've got to then understand what that took out of you and why the first half performance in particular happened. So, yeah, we'll review that tomorrow morning with them and ask them how they feel. I always ask them how they feel in the games. And yeah, it's a good point to make them understand and learn that, it's as much as it's great beating Manchester United in the week, you've got to then turn up on a weekend as well. And we didn't do that, or we didn't totally raise to our levels. Not necessarily the Man United levels, but certainly the league form levels that we have done for that first half. But second half, they were fine. They were very good second half, and we deserved, like I say, at least a point. But it didn't fall our way on yesterday afternoon.
David, there's a unique dynamic between managers, isn't there? Because you are absolute rivals for those 90-plus minutes. And yet you would understand what your counterpart is going through emotionally, the prospect of being knocked out. You were very sort of complimentary and supportive of Ruben Amorim afterwards.
Yeah, I think I've said it before, we're all on the same hamster wheel. Some are a bit bigger hamster wheels. We're on slightly smaller hamster wheels with maybe less spokes and less things to do in the sense of media duties and etc. But you understand, that he's been in there 8 months or something. You need at least 3, probably 4 transfer windows to make any sort of impression. That's my belief for any manager, not just the Manchester United ones. But you look at a club of that size, and I said it will get heat because a League Two team for the first time in their history has beaten, the giant that is Manchester United. And on one hand, you sort of go, yeah, you understand that, and you certainly understand that as a manager. But then you've got to understand that there's a whole new backroom team. There's new director of footballs, there's new sporting directors, there's new processes, I'm sure, being implemented. That's got nothing to do with Ruben Amorim. He's just the face of all that. And when you think, why is that being implemented? Well, it's probably because it didn't work very well before.
You look very relaxed and happy today, David. And I know managers always go, oh, well, it's all right winning in the cup, but the most important thing is 3 points on a Saturday. But actually, it's not really in football folklore. This is a result and a moment that will be remembered for, decades, probably. Nobody will remember that you lost to Bristol Rovers yesterday. This match defined Grimsby for years and years. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I said that again. I said after the game, I think we deserved to win it in 90 minutes. We had, in my eyes, a perfectly goal disallowed that got choked off for handball. We fluffed an absolute sitter to make it 3-0 as well. And we limited them to a last 5 minutes of desperation, if you like, with their chances, which wouldn't have come at 3-0. I asked the players to be brave. Go on, don't be anything other than what you've been all season. And they were. They deserve a huge amount of credit for what they, because that's quite a bold thing for a manager to ask you to do. I have to say, go and get after him, but also go and be good on the ball. You are good on the ball. Yes. Did we rely on Manchester United maybe not playing to their best? Yes. But then I think the players deserve a huge amount of credit for making them play like that. So you're right. It will get talked about for a long time. Certainly a lot longer than Bristol Rovers yesterday. And it's fantastic for the whole town, the community, the owners, everyone associated with the football club, because at this level you're in it for moments like that as well. So a terrific achievement by all involved, really.
Amarin rarely changes his formation. He might change some of the personnel, but you would have expected 3-4-2-1. Does that make your preparation easier? Obviously, you're playing against elite international players, and even with some rotation, but you kind of know the formation, and also the fact that the goalkeeper can be a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah, I think the truth is it does make it easier. I can remember playing Leeds in the League Cup first game on the road after COVID, Bielsa's team. We played the box. Them being a high pressing team, the plan was to find our spare midfielder, and if a centre half come all the way down with him, then we'll be 3 for 3 on the back line, or even 1 for 1 on the back line from really deep. And we were the best team in the first half. And he didn't say anything. I didn't speak to him afterwards other than the handshake at the final whistle. Bielsa, and he said it took us 35 minutes to work you out, and I didn't change at half time, and I wish I did. Because you know against Leeds, you're probably the better team, not by much, but just raucous atmosphere, and thought this is going great, and I didn't change, and I should have, because I'd have hoped it'd have taken another 35 minutes to work it out in the second half, but it didn't. So they'd already got us at half time, and part of our prep was right, what happens when they've worked us out? What happens? And the answer was he's probably not going to change. Now. I'm not sure if that's a criticism or a steadfast belief in what he wants to do. Either way, he's a terrific manager. You don't become Manchester United manager if you're rubbish. You just don't. They can have any manager in the world, and he's obviously a good guy. You can tell he's a good guy. His demeanour, how he is with his players, his interactions with his players, you can see that.
There were quite a few sort of factors which maybe we'll say were slightly in your favour, in that you've got a crowd bang up for it, biggest night ever. The rain is absolutely tipping down. It's, they're coming to an environment they're not really used to. And also, of course, we don't go into extra time anymore. So even though they pull back, if you can hang on for 2-2, you have possibly an even chance going into the penalty shootout. So there were some factors, I suppose, at play in your favour.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting that nobody's mentioned a replay for a payday.
Yeah. Henry loves a replay.
Well, yeah, because it's like, the narrative is if we'd have lost the penalty shootout, it'd be, we wanted a replay. But nobody's mentioned that. So we've got to be fair and we've got to be balanced in our sort of assessments of the whole.
Would you have preferred that then, David? Would you have preferred to have gone to a replay?
Probably not, from a football coach's point of view. I think the owners probably might have. I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't have. Maybe they just wanted the emotional joy that, because let's be honest, the way we did manage to win the tie was probably the best way of doing it as well. So, look, I'm not sure, to be honest. There's merits to both. A replay, if you know you're going to win the replay at Old Trafford, however long shot that is, and you'd take that because you get the financial windfall and the sort of prestige and everything that comes with it. But yeah, if I don't think we can look a gift horse in the mouth. We've won and beaten a terrific team who will improve. They will improve. And we did it our way. When I thought we deserved it, and it wasn't a team of non-first team players.
No.
All their big guns come on, and they're bringing on Fernandes and Mbeumo, and we're bringing on a lad who's played, I think it's 12 minutes of first team football, an 18-year-old. So it showed the gulf between us, but we were a team, and we managed to get over the line.
David, you draw on all the influences of your playing career, the managers that you've worked under, but also it's fascinating. I mean, you were at the University of Chester, weren't you? And you did a forensic biology degree. Do you bring any of that element, whether it's a sort of an academic approach or whether it's the forensic approach, into management?
Yes, lots of it. So, like last year, we took them to Loughborough University, to the NFL Academy, and we watched them train for a bit, and we spoke to the head coach and had a look at the playbook. 120 set pieces, and the head coach was fantastic with us, and we'll never forget Blue 80 as the little when the ball got sort of flicked to the quarterback from the guard and what have you. So, and the lads was brilliant at all that. So you bring all these kind of things. I've been speaking to a squadron leader at the RAF base near us to try and get them to go and see the Red Arrows, but it's their busy time of year, so that'll be done probably later on in the year. So I try and show the lads at least one high performing environment once a year, and I try and expose myself to more than that in a year, and I'm more than happy for staff to go and not be in the training ground for a day if they're going to see a high-performing person or a high-performing environment. The only thing I ask is that they bring back what they've found and tell us all about it.
Just quickly, David, you've got Sheffield Wednesday in the next round, and I know you're probably thinking about the league games.
They're not in a great place. I think as a football club, we played them last year in the League Cup, and we won half time before they walloped us second half. We're a better team than that. I don't know if they're a poorer team because I haven't started watching them yet. But it's a fantastic opportunity again to show what we're about. We shouldn't be. We respect everyone and fear no one. And I appreciate that's easy to say after you've just beaten Manchester United, but that was the mantra before we played the game. So it'd be no different whether it's Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday, Newcastle United or Accrington Stanley. It doesn't matter. That's the mentality that we've got, and that's the belief within the group.
David Artell, you put Grimsby back on the football map. It was a brilliant night. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Well done. Wish you the best luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Henry.
Thanks, David.
Top man, isn't he?
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And I mean, he spoke incredibly well after the game, and also his players did as well. I mean, the keeper came out and spoke. So no, that was fascinating.
This is Sunday Edition on talkSPORT with Shaun, Custis and Henry Winter. Coming up next, it's our feature Best of the Best Transfer Deadline Special. This is Sunday Edition here on talkSPORT with myself, Shaun Custis, and Henry Winter. And now it's time for this.
One of the greatest tries ever scored, but she won't get there. Kaylee Hodgkinson is the Olympic champion.
I'm going to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
Oh, Stephen Harmison, one of the great balls. Double 12! Oh, my word!
Best of the best on Sunday Edition.
I think I'm a special one.
I think he's done it! Yes! You beauty!
Let's be having you! On talkSPORT.
Yes, it's our new feature, Best of the Best, where we pick out the best of a moment, a subject.
And that's what it says on the tin.
It does what it says on the tin. And as it's transfer deadline day tomorrow, me and Henry thought we'd focus on the best of the best transfer stories. Not necessarily the best transfers or the most successful ones, but the stories of transfer deadline day. Doesn't have to be August, can be January as well. Me and Henry have been involved in so many of these days.
Oh, particularly you.
But some of, well, we sort of look for the stories, you then pontificate about them.
Yeah.
But anyway.
You do the client journalism and I do the sort of the prognostication later
Indeed.
on.
And the prognostication, for instance, of David De Gea not going to Real Madrid when he thought he was going to Real Madrid was one of the fun transfer stories of all time, wasn't it?
It was. And still is when you look back on it. And it's amazing how many of these stories involve faulty fax machines. And to explain that to the sort of the younger generation is that particularly if a move was involving a Spanish club. So Real Madrid had been chasing De Gea. This was in 2015. This was 2015, 10 years ago. And they'd been chasing David De Gea and it looked like it was all going to go through. And then a faulty fax machine where the details had to be sent through the sort of contracts to La Liga's offices, and Spanish tax forms were obviously had to be sort of processed and sent as well. Whether they'd run out of paper, they'd run out of ink, whether they had to nip down to the corner shop and get some more paper and fill it up, it just didn't go through in time, the documents. So De Gea stayed and played well, to be fair.
Yeah, it did. It was a remarkable one, wasn't it? And we're going to whiz through a few of these because I'm sure you've all got your favourites. But the transfer deadline day story of all time is surely another one that didn't happen, and that is Peter Odemwingie.
Peter Odemwingie, who was at West Brom, he thought, and his agent was very convinced that he was going to QPR. He was so convinced he decided to drive down, wait outside the ground at the time when Sky had their reporters outside the ground. They eventually went in to find somewhere safer after a few sort of fans tried to get involved. But was it Aidan? Who was
Aidan McGee?
Aidan McGee was outside Loftus Road, and they were pinging in and out of Jim White in the studio, talking about the possibility of players signing. I can't remember who else was signing, but anyway, the whole Odemwingie thing was fascinating. So he was round the corner in his car, and all the fans were sort of talking to him through the window, and eventually Sky went and interviewed him, and he talked about things, new owners at QPR and they're investing and how exciting it's going to be playing for them. And then
incredible, it didn't happen, and it's 12 years ago now, and people still. I mean, if you did a clip of transfer deadline day stories top 3, that would be in it.
Yeah, is it a Peter Odemwingie moment?
Indeed. I think also the most significant transfer deadline day story of all time, which rocked soccer, actually is Tevez and Mascherano arriving at West Ham from Corinthians, and because of all the ramifications of that afterwards, this was back in 2005, they signed for West Ham to everybody's surprise, and it caused mayhem, didn't it?
Well, it did. I mean, I ended up in a Austrian legal office giving evidence for Sheffield United in the tribunal. I mean, it was during 2008. Yeah, West Ham fans, yeah.
Or Sheffield United fans, rather.
Yeah, Sheffield United fans, fine. I mean, I was just echoing something that I'd written in my piece at Old Trafford for the Telegraph about how Tevez, was so elemental in them staying up. So absolutely, you're right. I mean, I don't think anyone realised at the time.
No, and after
the long-term ramifications.
They were basically owned by a third party, and that was deemed to be illegal. And of course, Sheffield United ended up getting relegated with Tevez scoring a crucial goal at the end, and they got fined 25 million, I think, in the end.
Yeah.
But Neil Warnock still bitter about that now.
Yeah, well, they wanted points deductions. And
this one interests me. Wayne Rooney signs for Man United on deadline day just after I revealed that Newcastle had made a £27 million bid for him. And everybody thinks it was just a stalking horse to get Fergie. Because Fergie always says he would never have bought him, didn't he, in the January if Newcastle hadn't made the bid. And I don't know if Bobby Robson really thought he was going to get him, but he certainly tried.
Yeah, and he scored some goals against you afterwards, didn't he?
That one where he gets...
I mean, they weren't tap-ins.
No, that one where he got annoyed with the ref and then volleyed it in. You were going just quick mention, while we're on Newcastle, Andy Carroll to Liverpool.
Yeah, and was that the same day as Suarez as well? So I think there was a press conference with Suarez one side of Kenny Dalglish and Andy Carroll the other. Probably one of Liverpool's greatest signings in terms of goals and everything in Suarez, and a signing that didn't really work out. So I know he's a big mate of yours, Andy Carroll.
It certainly didn't work out.
Didn't work out for Andy Carroll.
It scored one of the best headers I've ever seen for England against Sweden in the Euros. Absolutely brilliant. Well, I'd love to have got on to Berbatov, from Spurs, but we haven't got much time to do that. Just quickly, your thought. And he was a success.
Berbatov?
Yeah.
Berbatov's a fantastic success. Yeah. I mean, it's just a lovely player. Beautiful player to watch. I mean, Manchester City thought they had him. They had all this new money coming in. And Ferguson being Ferguson and ahead of the game, I think he drove to the airport to pick up Berbatov. Berbatov was adamant that he wanted to go to
he certainly was.
Manchester. You know where he learnt his English? Watching Westerns as a kid growing up.
Yeah. In fact, you never knew. Yeah. And Berbatov did get his move, so let's see if Isak gets his move and Wissa gets his move.
What's your gut feeling?
Probably it'll happen at 1 minute to 7 tomorrow night.
Let's hope the fax machines are working or whatever they are now.
Indeed. This is Sunday Edition on talkSPORT, and next up we're staying with transfers as a record-breaking window closes tomorrow.
Tyson Fury, Floyd Mayweather, Canelo Alvarez. Just hearing these names makes you think money and the hundreds of millions of dollars, pounds or Saudi riyals in boxing. But that's at the top. At the bottom, it isn't quite the same. Even for those on the rise, there's not an awful lot of cash in the boxing world, And if you're just starting out, well, it can be a very costly exercise indeed. But don't take my word for it. Here's the former European champion, talkSPORT's Spencer Oliver.
You're turning professional and you're boxing, let's say, York Hall on a non-televised fight. You have to sell tickets to earn any money, but you have to cover the wages of your opponent as well. So if you don't have the ability to be able to sell enough tickets, you effectively have to pay to fight.
A far cry then from Jake Paul facing Mike Tyson in 2024, when the purse was reported to be around £48 million. But the vast amounts of cash lining the top dog's pockets isn't the norm in a typical fight.
Let's say you're lucky and you get between 5 and 10 grand. You're going to get 10 grand max for that. 10% goes to the trainer, 25% goes to the manager. Then we've got the tax man to pay as well. So we're cutting that money in at least half. So now you've got 5 grand for a 10-week camp. So you're talking about a guy here earning, he might be clearing 500 quid a week. How do you support a family on that? So boxers chase the dream. And, you know, there's probably 2% of them that actually make it.
So say you do make it and you start to rise up the ranks. Strikers Boxing, a training academy, says the mid-tier fighters can earn more, somewhere between £10,000 and £50,000 a fight, depending on record, profile, opponent and popularity of weight class. It's only at the top level does the real cash start flowing in, with the top-tier professionals, i.e. those going for titles, earning 6 figures a fight. Something else you'll have heard of is the terms prize fighter or journeyman. A prize fighter is, as it sounds, someone who picks up fights where they can and gets a nice big check if they win. Journeymen are the fighters who take on up-and-comers, effectively used for experience in the ring. Even if they're going up against the real prospects, a young Anthony Joshua, for example, these guys will be lucky to earn more than 10 grand. So the average boxer isn't as rich as you'd think.
We're halfway through Sunday edition with myself, Shaun, Custis and Henry Winter, and we're diving straight into the latest transfer news now. Who better to bring us up to date than Alex Crook, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent. Morning, Alex.
Good morning. Here we are, the home straight now.
Absolutely. I bet you're looking forward to the end of the home straight and getting over that line and collapsing in a heap. But before you do get to collapse in a heap, we've had this statement from Johan Wissa about the fact he wants to leave Brentford, which I think we all knew, but he's actually gone on record in a way Isak did the same. What's at play here? Who's told him to put this statement out?
Well, I would suggest it's been advised by his agent, but it is very similar, albeit a little bit longer than the statement that Alexander Isak released a couple of weeks ago. He talks about the fact he stayed silent for the duration of the summer. But in his words, with just hours remaining at the transfer window, I feel compelled to make it clear I want to leave Brentford. I believe the club are unduly standing in my way despite a series of fair offers throughout the summer. Now, we reported a couple of weeks ago that it would take a fee in excess of £60 million to persuade Brentford to even contemplate selling Johan Wissa. I spoke to Keith Andrews after Brentford's cup win at Bournemouth in midweek, and I asked him if there would be a problem integrating Wissa back into the team, should he still be a Brentford player come 7 o'clock on Monday. He said the bigger problem would be if he is no longer a Brentford player, because I don't want to lose someone who scored 19 goals last season. So whether this will change Brentford's stance, I would say is unlikely. And what I can tell you is that Brentford have always maintained, despite what Wissa has said in the statement, they never made any promises that he could leave the club this summer. So this is another...
Where have we heard that before? Yeah.
Well, exactly. This is another soap opera in a summer of transfer sagas.
Keith Andrews was saying last night on Match of the Day that he expected him to be a Brentford player on Tuesday. He didn't seem to have any doubt about it. But I know you were saying his agent suggested he does this, but heaven forbid, would Newcastle have dared to suggest to his agent that it might be an idea that Wissa put out a statement? Surely we wouldn't act like that, given the way Wissa's, the Isak situation's been.
Well, it would be a little bit hypocritical, wouldn't it? To take issue with Isak and then advise one of your targets to do the same thing. There's no suggestion that the Newcastle have had any part in this. They are looking to add a second striker. Obviously, they've broken their transfer record in recent days to sign Nick Voltemada. They're still trying to prize Jurgen Strand-Larsen away from Wolves. Wolves' stance on that has been pretty firm. He's not for sale at any price. But I just looked at Vitor Pereira's body language on TV last night when he was being asked about Vitor Pereira, and I didn't get the impression he's 100% confident that Fosun, the owners of Wolves, won't cash in. I think Newcastle have felt a deal for Wissa is going to be difficult for some time now, hence the fact they've pivoted to Voltemada and Strand-Larsen.
Cookie, what's happening with Emi Martinez?
Well, this is an interesting one because Manchester United, after the opening game of the season, were telling us that the goalkeeping department wasn't a major cause for concern. Andre Onana's stats are up there with the best in the Premier League, but clearly that stance has changed. They've been in talks with Seny Lammers, a Belgian under-21 international at Royal Antwerp, to try and get that deal over the line. Now we understand at talkSPORT they are back in for Emi Martinez. Whether that would be a loan deal or a permanent transfer remains to be seen. What I can tell you is they're not going to sign Martinez and Seny Lammers. So I think this is a backup option if the deal for Lammers falls through. There has been interest in him from Turkey. But I think a lot of Manchester United fans might prefer Martinez, proven in the Premier League, a World Cup winner with Argentina, a self-proclaimed best goalkeeper in the world, rather than invest in another young goalkeeper, because it has been a problem for them this season. They've conceded too many goals, and neither Altay Bayındır or Onana have covered themselves in glory.
We're forgetting Aston Villa in this slightly, though. Why on earth would they let Emi Martinez go to Man United?
Well, I think it's been a difficult window for Aston Villa, mainly because of their failure to qualify for the Champions League. And actually, it's ironic that Martinez played a part in that. He was obviously sent off on the final day of the season at Old Trafford when they lost. You remember the last game at Villa Park. He was quite emotional, tears in his eyes, looked to be waving farewell to the crowd. So I think he expected to leave. And I think if Villa can make this work financially, they would be open to a transfer. I reported last night, well, yesterday afternoon, actually, and it ramped up last night, Villa's interest in Lucas Paquetá. The reason that looks like it isn't going to happen is because they can't afford to pay for him in this window. They offered a loan deal with an obligation at the end of the season. West Ham not keen on that.
But he doesn't play in goal, of course.
No, he doesn't play in goal. This highlights the issues that Villa have had in terms of strengthening the squad.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just having a joke with you, Alex.
Yeah, Crookie, it's lovely to see the sort of background of your house. It basically seems to be dominated by a clock, which I guess is your world at the moment, or you spent all the money on the clock and not on furniture. But just on talking of big buys, Mark Gay, are Liverpool offering A, enough, and B, is he likely to start? I know there's a lot of uncertainty around Konate, but would it feature in Gay's thought process, World Cup year, am I going to start alongside Virgil van Dijk, or am I going to be competing, to try and get in ahead of Konate?
I've always thought that would be the case, and maybe that's why this deal has been left so late. But I think Gay is someone who backs himself, believes he's a good enough player to be a regular at Liverpool. And let's be honest, the chance to join Liverpool, one of the legacy clubs in the Premier League, the current champions, doesn't come along every day. I sense there's a confidence that this one will get done. I don't think the clubs are too far apart in terms of agreeing a financial deal. Steve Parish has gone on record as saying if Mark doesn't sign a new contract, we're going to have to sell him. I think the intention has always been not to sign that new deal. He's happy with the personal terms on offer, so I don't think that would be an issue. But equally, if it doesn't happen, I think he'd be quite relaxed as well, because I'm told there's some big European clubs, including Bayern Munich, who would be interested in taking him on a free transfer at the end of the season. So it's almost a no-lose situation for Mark Gay. He stays at Palace, plays week in, week out, probably starts as England's first choice centre-back at the World Cup, then joins a big club in the summer, or he gets his move to Liverpool tomorrow.
It's a slightly side issue, this, Alex, but, excuse me, although the transfer window closes here at 7 o'clock tomorrow, I understand in Europe some of them stay open till 11 o'clock, so you might get players moving out after the 7 o'clock deadline.
The main ones are 7, aren't they, Crookie?
Yeah, I think the main European major leagues are all coming together at 7 o'clock. That's why the Premier League have brought their deadline forward. The interesting one is the Turkish window, which stays open for quite a few days after the English window. Now, that could be an issue for Manchester City because we know they're interested in Gigi Donnarumma, but that depends on Ederson taking up a big money offer from the Turkish league. There is a scenario, potentially, where Manchester City gamble and sign Donnarumma in the hope that after the English window closes, they persuade Ederson to accept the money from Turkey.
So you're not going to be able to collapse onto the settee at 7 o'clock. You're going to be still going. And also Saudi deadline.
Another fortnight.
Is that another fortnight? Go on, blimey. Manuel Akanji, think he'll leave Man City?
I think he will. I certainly think they're open to offers. And I think of the proposals on the table, probably Tottenham's is the most attractive to him because they could offer Champions League football. And they do need cover in that area, don't they? Because when Romero and Mickey van der Ven are fit, they look really watertight defensively, although maybe not yesterday. Bournemouth had a lot of chances in that game, but both of those have a habit of either getting injured or, in Romero's case, suspended. And I do think they look a little bit light in terms of central defenders.
Strand Larsen came on the week for Wolves, played superbly. Yesterday he was in an executive box scrolling through his phone, apparently injured, not sure what the extent of the injury is. What's the extent of his future at Molineux?
Well, I think he might have had a bit of transfer window-itis, to be honest. But he looked pretty chilled, didn't he, during the game, was celebrating the Wolves' goals. He'd like to join Newcastle. He's made that clear to Wolves. They've told him at the moment he isn't going. But my nagging suspicion when you look at Wolves and the owners there is they are a selling club. So they will have a number. I think that if Newcastle hit it, then they will be tempted to cash in. And again, it's a chance to make a huge profit on a player they've only recently signed. Is Strand Larsen really a 60 to 65 million pound centre forward? I guess Wolves would turn around and say, well, it's the going rate in 2025. I think it's a huge offer for them to turn down.
It's a strange one in that Wisser and Strand Larsen, say Newcastle go get one of them. They're totally different players for me.
Agreed. And I think a lot of people felt that when Voltemada came in, maybe that would end interest in Strand Larsen because they are quite similar players. But they do need two forwards, Newcastle. I think that's always been a stipulation when it comes to Alexander Isak. I can't believe we've got 15 minutes into this chat, Shaun, and you've not asked me if I think Isak will go at 7 o'clock tomorrow. Maybe you're running away from that one. But
go on then.
Well, the deal's not dead. Liverpool aren't going to pay £130 million, as has been quoted in some quarters. But if Newcastle get their second striker, I still think there's every chance this happens.
We can't go back to them and say, OK, we'll accept your first bid. We just can't. We've got to dig in there, Alex. Come on.
What would you take, Shaun?
I'm taking 150. That's what we said.
150.
That's what we said. But before we sign either Visser or Strand Larsen, we've got to know if Isaac's leaving. Surely we have to. And Liverpool are just going to fold their arms and say, well, we gave you an offer ages ago. It's take it or leave it. You really think that would happen?
I think Liverpool feel they're in a fairly strong bargaining position because the player has made it so clear that he wants to join the club. And you speak to people in the game, Stuart Pearce said it in commentary yesterday, he doesn't envisage a way where, even if he stays, Isak ever plays for Newcastle again. So it's a huge gamble for Newcastle, gambling on being able to change his mind and reintegrate him to turn down what I think will be a British record offer.
Is that because of the reaction of the fans, which would be toxic, or players within the dressing room, they understand ambition, Liverpool's a bigger club and all that?
Yeah, I think he'll be okay with his teammates. I think Eddie Howe even sympathises with him a little bit, although I think he's been frustrated and maybe even a little let down with the way that Isak has gone about it. But he understands that, again, it's a chance to join the Premier League champions, an iconic club in Liverpool. So I don't think that's the problem. I think the reaction of the fans is more of an issue.
Alex, brilliant. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day and tomorrow, if you can. Busy. And we look forward to you finally having a rest after the Saudi transfer window closes in 2 weeks' time. Thank you, Alex Crook. And as we know, the transfer window here in England slams shut tomorrow at 7 p.m, because it always slams, it never closes. And there'll be a special Deadline Day drive show with Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent starting from 4. And that'll be followed by a Deadline Day special with who else but Mr. Deadline Day himself, Jim White, our chief football correspondent Alex Crook, who you've just heard from there, and former Liverpool midfielder Danny Murphy, analysing and dissecting all the last-minute deals. On Deadline Day, talkSPORT will give you the inside track on who your club are signing and keep you up to date with all the latest deals as they happen. Next up, we speak to former Rangers striker Peter Lovenkrantz ahead of the Old Firm derby at Ibrox this afternoon.
unlocker of defences.
If you've got a problem or something to say,
you don't have the right to say anything about something. I do.
This nonsense kills the game.
We're talking about the first Old Firm derby of the season at Ibrox here on Sunday Edition, with Rangers yet to win a league game, 3 draws so far. Both sides exited from the Champions League in the week and are now in the Europa League. And ahead of the game, Rangers manager Russell Martin was asked whether his first Old Firm derby has been made all the more important by the awful start to his tenure.
No, I think this game is always going to be important for anyone. So it's our 4th league game. The manner of defeat makes everything feel terrible. We've qualified for Europa League. We have a chance to put things right on Sunday. All focus is on that after Wednesday night, and now it's about responding properly.
Now, we're joined by a man who's well qualified to discuss the plight of Rangers. It's Peter Lovenkrands, former Rangers striker. Morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Hi, Peter.
Peter, what on earth have you made of Rangers' start of the season under Russell Martin?
Yeah, it's not been the best. I think he's really struggled to get things going. It's been tough to watch at times. So the style of play has not kicked in yet. I think the players find it difficult to play that way. And I think the stats as well. With attempts on goal, it's not normally where you see that for Rangers Football Club. So with over 100 attempts in 4 or 5 games is a lot. So it's there seems to be a lot of things that still hasn't clicked in yet. So yeah, he's under better pressure, and of course going into an Old Firm week, it's even more pressure added on. These games are huge, but this game especially, I think, is actually quite big for both teams.
We saw from his time at Southampton that he sticks to the principles no matter what, no matter if you're losing 5-0, 6-0, as he did in the week, and he won't change for anybody. And Rangers fans want him to change, and they don't like his idea of the beautiful game, if you like.
Yeah, it's the style Russell wants to play, and he showed that in Southampton. There was some tough games down there as well, where afterwards I've seen all the interviews and he refused to change what he's doing in his system and stuff. And up here, of course, there's so much expectation at Rangers and at Celtic. So it's when you come up here and it doesn't work, it's tough. It's the fans. They want more. The desire to win games, and when you especially started the season and not won a game yet, that's put yourself under massive pressure, and then going into an Old Firm that's going to add on a lot more.
Peter, you scored the winner for Rangers against Celtic in the 2002 Scottish Cup final with about 10 seconds to spare. You also scored for Schalke against Dortmund in 2006, played for Newcastle against Sunderland in 2009. Is there anything, even those 2 derby matches, is there anything that compares to the Old Firm?
No, absolutely not. It was interesting in Germany where Schalke fans assumed and they just thought, this is just a bigger derby. But it's clearly not. The smallest detail of me driving, when we were driving in the bus, and you can see Schalke fans standing having a beer with Dortmund fans outside the stadium and all that would just never happen in the Old Firm. You couldn't do that. It's a completely different setup. And up here, I've been around the world and I've seen a lot of derbies, and I don't think there's anything that comes close to the Old Firm. There's so much at stake. There's so much between the two clubs that goes deeper than just the football. So it's the biggest in the world, in my opinion.
The worry for Rangers is not just losing; it's getting hammered, and you become a laughingstock. I saw a tweet in the week about the Champions League game. Somebody tweeted, "Club Brugge take the first set against Rangers 6-0," and there's a lot of Mickey taking going on, and that's what makes it even worse.
Yeah. It's unusual for Rangers, the size of football club they are. In my opinion, they're a much bigger club than Club Brugge when you look at it, but it didn't show it, because they've not been back to the kind of greatness that they have in years, and that's tough to watch. And when they start getting all these taking the mick out of the club and all that, that's hard to watch. Hopefully something that can put that straight soon, and get right back on the right track and get back to the days where they were a massive club in Europe as well. But over the last few years, they've done well in Europe. They've done great in Europe, and this is the thing. Over the last few years, they've actually struggled in the league and at times against Celtic, but they've actually produced in Europe. But right now, we're not doing well in the league, and you're also not doing so well in Europe. So it's the first time where both sides doesn't really add up, and that's why this game, I think, has an extra layer of importance. Coming into that, it's gonna be a hell of a game. Even on the other side, Celtic is also, they went out of Champions League as well, and where they expected to go through, so they have a layer of expectations on top of them as well to go to Ibrox and get a result. So yeah, there's a lot at stake for both teams.
Peter, you talk about it being the biggest derby in the world. You played in 22 Old Firm games. What's it like being in the tunnel about to step out and then stepping out into that atmosphere.
Yeah, but it's completely changed, and I'm so sad to see it, because for players now, for young fans growing up now, they won't get the experience that I had and the fans back then had. The away fans, even coming to Ibrox with Celtic fans, they had the whole back stand at Ibrox filled, and beach balls getting thrown onto the pitch and all the rest. But of course, that's not what you want. But I mean, the atmosphere was ridiculous because there was that many fans, away fans, and then there's been all this turbulence and whatever with the fans over the last years, and that they've cut that down, and there's not as many anymore that it was when I was playing. And the atmosphere back then was so electric, both places, even going to Parkhead where Rangers fan had the whole corner filled, and they were so loud. I remember playing on the pitches there, and you can hear them more than sometimes the home fans, and that made the home fans have to step up their atmosphere and that the standing behind the team and stuff. And right now, the fans are cut down to, I don't know how much they're allowed for this weekend now, but it was down to 800 at one point, and now it was up to 1,000 and more than that. But it's not the same. Back then, I think we were talking about 8,000 was filmed this day, and the atmosphere was electric. It was absolutely incredible. And I feel for the fans, the young fans now, they won't understand what it was like back then. And the players coming to the football club, they won't understand what it actually was like, and the atmosphere and what you go into was when as soon as you walked onto that pitch from the tunnel, the atmosphere was just electric, and it was the loudest you would probably ever experience.
Can you see any way that Rangers can win today? I know both clubs are struggling a bit after going out of Europe, but you would say Celtic must be overwhelming favourites, even those that are.
Yeah, Celtic probably, they are favourite going probably into the game because of the way they are in the league. They're also 6 points ahead. They can go 9 points clear. But, an Old Firm game, I've said it from all the time when I played, it does not matter what your current form is like. When you go into an Old Firm, everything of that goes out the window. And I always see it as a 50-50 because the smallest things can change the whole game. It can be a challenge in the start. There could be a yellow card, be a red card. It could be these small things that changes the game in an instant. And that can happen early doors in the game, and anything can happen. So these games, I always call a 50-50. But yeah, you would say that Celtic is probably favourite going into it because of the current form of Rangers. But yeah, we'll need to wait and see.
Just quickly, I'm not going to miss this chance. As Henry mentioned earlier on, you have, of course, played for Newcastle United. So very quickly, Isak, staying or going?
I think it's better for everybody if he goes. I think we get a good sum of money into the club, and he goes to where he wants to go, because this whole situation is it's not been very good. So I think for both parties, it would be better if he moved on.
Peter Lovenkrantz, enjoy the Old Firm derby today if you can.
I'll try.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Peter.
Good play was Peter.
Yeah, really good. Electric. A bit like the atmospheres that he played in.
Absolutely. And it's interesting what he says about the contrast now compared to what
it's a good point there. I think the 2,000 Celtics, I just sort of checked briefly, but as he says, it was down to 800. I'm glad the clubs have come to a little bit more of a sensible understanding on that, and let's hope the number gets back up.
This is Sunday Edition on talkSPORT. We'll focus next on an important international week for Thomas Tuchel. Sunday edition with myself, Shaun, Custis and Henry Winter is with you till 11 o'clock. It's time to talk the England squad now, in which there was no place for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Henry's still gnashing his teeth about that one. Or Phil Foden, or Jack Grealish, Kyle Walker, or Trevor Chalobah. Uncapped Jed Spence and Elliot Anderson were called up. Recalls for Marcus Rashford, Adam Wharton, Jared Bowen and 35-year-old Jordan Henderson, who's featured in 3 of Tuchel's 4 games in charge, is again included. Now, Henry was at the Hilton Wembley for Thomas Tuchel's press conference on Friday. Here's the exchange they had.
Just in terms of the under-21s, were praised for playing with a lot of freedom. They seem to be a fearlessness. Is that their youth? And is it difficult to actually replicate that? Because you've got 6 of the players who won the under-21s in the last 2 tournaments are now in your squad.
I think they feel a different level of scrutiny when they play for us. They play for the national team. There's a different level of exposure. It's just like this. That comes with a different level of pressure and with a different level of being nervous and excited also. But it's actually the aim and the goal for all of us to find this freedom, to find an identity. And to build this identity and a sportive identity, what this team stands for, how do we want to play, how do we want to attack, and there are several zones and several parts of the game that we have to improve, be it in deep build-up, be in overcoming a low block in the middle of the pitch, because both teams now will most likely again play in a 5-4-1 deep block against us. So there are topics that we absolutely want to improve, and we have to improve.
The old weight of the shirt is back on the agenda. Under Gareth Southgate, they sort of got rid of that. The weight of the shirt, it didn't matter anymore. People enjoyed playing for England, I think, and thrived in the England shirt. But we're now back to it being very pressurised. And Thomas Tuchel touched on a point there, which I think we've made before, is in that if you play for England, and England's the only focus for a fortnight, I think only Man United is comparable, where every mistake you make is scrutinised long after the game. With England, we're not talking about anything else for the next fortnight. Maybe a bit Man United, but they've won, so the pressure's slightly off Amorim for a fortnight. This is where our focus is. So every player is under incredible scrutiny.
Yeah, I mean, if you make a mistake for your club, it has ramifications locally, regionally. If you make a mistake for England,
global ramifications.
Global ramifications. I mean, that's partly us in the media, and partly that the fans want to see England end. I mean, with respect to the Lionesses, end the years of hurt in terms of going back to 66. So, I mean, it's 50 years next year. I mean, it is a remarkable weight. We can bear.
60 years.
60 years. Is it 60 years?
60 years.
60 years. God.
Maths
on a book, I might have to update it.
Maths was never your strong point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that the sort of narrative was accelerated, and the reason why I asked Tuchel about it yesterday. And let's be fair, it's quite an exciting squad when you see Wharton coming in, Elliot Anderson. Yeah, given that Jude Bellingham and Cole Palmer and Bukayo Saka, these sort of attacking talents that England have got are sort of not available at the moment. I understand the concerns about why is Jordan Henderson in there. He'll be 36 when the World Cup comes around. You don't want him in there. I don't want him in there because I don't think that... I mean, he's in there for his leadership qualities. Well, then get him on the coaching staff.
Good in the dressing room.
Yeah, good in the dressing room. We'll get him on the coaching staff.
But you like good tourists. You've said to me before, when you go to a World Cup, you can take maybe 2 or 3 players who won't necessarily play. So if Jordan Henderson, say, won't necessarily play, then he'd be good in the dressing room. But I actually think he's in because he's going to play.
But yeah, that is my concern. And he is playing at the moment. He played 3 out of the 4 games. But look, with Elliot Anderson in there and Wharton stepping in there, I mean, he's not short of sort of midfield options to complement in different ways Declan Rice. So, yeah, I mean, it was just the narrative in the summer out in Slovakia where England, this young England team, which actually wasn't necessarily the best generation of under-21, certainly compared to Lee Carsley's team that won it 2 years before, how they played with a certain joyousness. There didn't seem that pressure on them. So is it a cultural thing with the England seniors? Is it a Tuchel versus Carthy thing? I don't want to sort of pitch the two of them against each other, but is there also a different mood in terms of, because England haven't played well under Tuchel, given the quality. We've got good players. You know, you look at that, and we're always talking about these young players who are stepping up as well from the academies. England have got a plethora of good players.
There are good players in there somewhere, as you always tell me. In fact, one of those is Marcus Rashford, who surely hasn't done enough at Barcelona yet to be recalled to the England squad.
I have to say, I was slightly surprised when I was looking through the runners and riders and the thoroughbreds who was going to step up. I mean, it might be because of sort of injuries, whatever, but I think it's also because Tuchel doesn't forget those 2 games that Manchester United played against PSG when Rashford was fantastic.
Can't live on history, though.
You can't live on history, but I think some managers do have that embedded in their mind. They know what they can achieve, these players can achieve.
What do you think? Do you think Jack Grealish might come back into the equation maybe a bit earlier than we thought? Because he looks full of love for the game and energy and everything at Everton.
Absolutely. He also looks, if you look in his face, he looks really sort of lean. He's obviously been working out. He's absolutely focused on delivering. And Moyes may be the perfect manager for him at club level in terms of providing with the platform, but also driving him on and demanding of him.
The thing about him at Everton, it looks like, I'm not saying he's got total free rein, but it looks like he's been like, look, you're our best player. Go and make things happen, which is an unusual Moyes trait in some ways because he's usually quite pragmatic, but he's gone on then.
But people have said this about Jack Grealish, but if you look at his game, his work ethic out of possession, he will track back and he will win the ball. He will close down. He's not just I'm just going to wait up top and wait for as a number 10 position and wait for the ball to come to me. He'll go hunting for it. He puts in his tackles.
But you've got to admit, Guardiola disciple though you are, he was stifled under Guardiola.
Yeah, absolutely. But then also Guardiola disciple, as you should be if you like good football and you like invention. We should remember 2 years ago how good Grealish was in that treble-winning team.
But I thought he lost a bit of pace, to be honest. I thought he was no longer able to take up off the fullback, which is why Jeremy Doku got the nod so often instead of Grealish, because he beats the fullback. Yet Grealish, as you say, looks a bit leaner, looks to have rediscovered a half a yard.
But Grealish never relied on pace.
No, but he looks leaner and sharp.
He does, absolutely. And I think he showed with those Instagram pictures that he posted in the summer about the sort of the hard work that he'd been putting in. And really, I mean, he looked gaunt, actually, in some of the photographs.
You can't win, can you?
No, but I think I'm not criticising. I'm just saying that you absolutely should congratulate him that he spent a large part of his summer getting in this fantastic condition that he is now delivering. Was it 4 assists so far? Yeah. It's been terrific.
Now, Tuchel also clarified his repulsive Jude Bellingham comments, which you made on talkSPORT, and he said he thought he'd have more credit in the bank with the British media.
I think English media. I think the Scottish media are probably quite happy about it.
Can you tell me how this question came about, and was he desperate to get it out there?
What, on Friday? Yeah. Well, it was a question from James Ollie of ESPN, who comes in invariably with fantastic, very sort of forensic questions, and I think a lot of us had forgotten actually the whole the repulsive comments, which was, as you say, it was the day after the Senegal game, which was something that Tuchel made the point of. He hadn't had much sleep. It was a live interview. It was a very good interview. I think it was with Adrian, wasn't it? And he just said that, my mother finds some of Jude Bellingham's on-field behaviour, I assume towards referees, as repulsive. He used the word repulsive. And he said, listen, I picked the wrong word the moment I said it, and the furore immediately was triggered the moment the interview came out, live interview, he rang up Jude Bellingham and apologised. He said, listen, I used the wrong word. But that bit about having credit in the bank with the English media, I mean...
Why does he think he's got credit in the bank with the English media?
Honestly, it's a really good question. I mean, I think you'd have more credit in the bank if he'd had So like Southgate obviously had a lot of credit in the bank with the English media because, we'd seen him on the road with ITV, obviously covered his career. There was a relationship there. And I think at times, and I know I'm probably an outlier in this, I always felt that Southgate got a slightly easy ride from the English media. It was slightly different when you and Woolley and Steve Howard and the sort of, the big beasts of yesteryear were sort of roaming around.
I'm not yesteryear.
No, you're not yesteryear, but in terms of, do you remember, I mean, those, when the circulation wars were going on and it was really, the England manager was often in the crosshairs of Fleet Street. It's different. It's a different mood now. So, but in that was, when you use the word like repulsive, I mean, there was always going to be a reaction.
Why do you think it's taking so long? I know it's an England press conference, but
First time we've seen him.
Yes, but if it bothered him so much, do you not think he might have put out some comments maybe the next day and said, look, I said something yesterday I really shouldn't have done that. It was the wrong word, second language and all that. He could have put out a statement the next day.
It's a difficult one because he's got very good media people around him at the FA. He would have said, well, listen, if you do say something, are you then sort of putting more fuel on the fire and keeping it going for another day?
He's going to be asked the next time out, surely. Well, apart from by you.
Apart from by, I'd completely forgotten about it, actually. I actually thought he'd thrown his mother under the bus rather than Bellingham.
Yeah,
by saying, Mum said these.
Anyway, he's repaired that one, so I think we can put that to bed and look forward to Jude Bellingham returning to the squad next time.
Yeah, England's most important player with Harry Kane. I mean, just a wider point on that, I like a competitive edge with a player. I mean, obviously you have to show respect for, I think if England are going to win a World Cup, you're going to need a bit more of Bellingham's mentality throughout the squad.
England versus Andorra is at Villa Park. World Cup qualifier on talkSPORT this Saturday, live on talkSPORT. And then Tuesday, 9th of September, Serbia v England. Also a World Cup qualifier, and that'll be on talkSPORT too. You're listening to Sunday Edition. And to finish, we'll preview one of the games of the season, and that's Liverpool v Arsenal.
To the area, Salah trying to seal it here, right foot shot, you bet he sealed it. Mo Salah does what he does best. They're going to beat Bournemouth by 4 goals to 2.
Listen, if they go and get Mark Gahey, and if they do seal Alexander Isak, it's game over.
Defensively, they've been pretty fragile.
The full-time whistle has blown. The Manchester United players sink to the ground in frustration. It's finished Manchester United 0, Arsenal 1. Echoes of the type of performance they used to produce on a regular basis under George Graham. That 1-0 to the Arsenal chant.
Arsenal make a move for Eberiche Eze. I think it makes them far more likely to win the league.
Up steps Gyökeres and slams it into the bottom left-hand corner. It's Arsenal 5, Leeds 0.
Engamoa to finish it. He's won it. Rio Engamoa, the teenager.
We are nowhere near winning the title. Not a chance.
Liverpool v Arsenal today at 4:30. That's the top two from last season taking centre stage. Both have got 6 points. Liverpool beat Bournemouth and Newcastle. Arsenal beat Man United and Leeds. But Arsenal haven't won at Anfield since September 12, when me of yesteryear was still on the road. That's how long ago it was, Henry. Anyway, let's hear from both the managers involved, starting with Arne Slot, finishing off with Mikel Arteta.
A very important one, obviously, and you want to continue and building the momentum that we are in right now. And going to those grounds, those stadiums against this kind of opposition is what we want. And come from those big games winning in a really convincing way. That's the objective.
A very strong team. And that was already really good last season. And I think I've improved their squad a lot during the summer. So all the quality they have, but especially one thing that stands out in the season till now, and what stands out in a negative way for us, is that we've conceded, if I include the Bilbao game, 4 set pieces. And of course, as we all know, that's one of their strengths, not the strength, but one of their strengths, because they can play in multiple ways. You can see how well they are managed by Miguel, and they're working for 5 years together, because they can play almost every style there is in football. If you look at Monday, when we faced Newcastle, we conceded 2, and against Bilbao, we conceded 2. It's a part we need to improve.
Sounded like starting with Mikel Arteta and finishing with Arne Slot to me. Second producer, they were the wrong way around. Anyway, we've heard from both managers there, but we also heard a little bit from Mo Salah, which was in the papers, talking about how Arsenal have it a bit easier because they've got a squad which has been together quite a long time and they all know each other, whereas poor old Liverpool have had to spend 300 million making a squad that won the title even better. Don't know each other yet, quite.
Yeah, I think that Arsenal might look at the fixture list at the start of the season and certainly say in terms of the fixtures they haven't had it easier, and that they've started well in terms of results, increasingly with performances. I think it's going to be fascinating. I mean, Mo Salah himself actually hasn't had exactly an electric start to the season by his very high Football of the Year, Player of the Year standards. I assume he'll be up against Calafiori, or Calafiori will be up against him. And Calafiori likes to overlap and get upfield, so maybe Salah will find some space there. I think it's fascinating. I mean, you just look, it's always a great game to look forward to, and it often produces a thriller. And you look at some of the matchups, Ekitike against Saliba, Gyökeres against Virgil van Dijk, Konate. Will that intensify the sort of, the Mark Gay, Madueke, if he plays on the right with no Saka, up against Kerkez, who, look, Kerkez is in the PFA Team of the Year, and he was fantastic for Bournemouth last season. He's obviously just sort of settling in at Liverpool. So I think from a footballing, it's almost, everyone says, well, it's come too early in the season, but that's the fixture list. You can't have shootouts like this necessarily on the last Sunday of the season. But what a game! I mean, just
Liverpool haven't, as you said, haven't totally convinced at the start of the season. I think you'd agree we was robbed the other night, even though Newcastle were down to 10 men. To lose that,
a draw would have been fair.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, Gordon was, as he admits himself, was a bit of an idiot. Gets sent off, and once you're down to 10 men, you're always going to struggle. So yeah, draw would have been fair enough. Brilliant story for young Rio to score that goal. And of course, we've got probably 2 youngsters on the bench today: Rio and Goma for Liverpool, and Max Dowman for Arsenal. Which is quite amazing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's when does school go back? I mean, it is extraordinary. And I mean, Jeremy Monga for Leicester, 2 nights ago? I mean, he's what, sort of 16 as well. I mean, these academies keep on producing.
And 53, and Henry Winter bingo got Leicester City in. Well done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is life outside the Premier League, Shaun. So yeah, fair play to Leicester and their academy as well. So Yeah, it's just fantastic that, and these are players who can come on and just electrify a stadium. It may be too early for Max Dowman, although they've got injuries in those sort of positions. We're almost talking about Nwaneri as an elder statesman at what he's 18, 19, and Lewis Skelly as well.
Do you see these two as the ones fighting it out for the title?
Don't you?
I hesitate to dismiss Man City and the like, but it does feel like that already. Maybe Chelsea will have a say, but I haven't watched them yesterday. I wasn't wholly convinced by them, I must say.
You can't write off Manchester City with a manager.
Can you write off Chelsea then?
No, I don't think you can. I think...
You write off Tottenham?
I think that, probably those four will be probably will be the top four. I went Liverpool, Arsenal, City. I can't remember where I went. Probably Chelsea, fourth. But Liverpool, particularly if they get Isak, particularly if they get Gay, I just think will be. Was it Adrian saying that?
They're spending a heck of a lot of money. City have had loads of criticism over the years for spending fortunes, and here Liverpool have just come in with the golden checkbook and just gone bang.
They spent 10 million last season and won the title. So maybe you could actually congratulate.
Did it need 250 or 300 million pounds of improvement?
Well, obviously the fullbacks needed addressing. Andy Robertson has just been made, I think, vice captain, and it's really important that he stays because of the example he sets, the sort of the standards and his drive, and the fact that he's still a good international level left back. But Kirkes really needed to come in to push him and really to start. They needed to address, obviously, Trent Alexander-Arnold, your favourite player. He'd gone to a bigger club. And they needed Frimpong to come in. Also, Frimpong, as we know, he can understudy for Mo Salah when the AFCON comes around. Midfield as well, Florian Wirtz is still working out 8 or 10. He's still he's a fabulous player. But you look at the reaction of those whose places might have been deemed under threat, like Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai's just been outstanding. Whether he's playing at right back, whether he's playing at, as an 8 central midfield, at 10 at times, that dummy to set up Gamar's goal was fabulous. So, yeah, they've got so much going for them, and a brilliant manager in Arne Slot.
At midday, Russell Martin gets his first taste of the Old Firm derby as Rangers, without a victory in their opening 3 league games, host Celtic. Both sides suffered embarrassing Champions League exits in the week. Let's get the team news now with talkSPORT's John Dunn.
As you say, both teams looking to respond to those midweek Champions League eliminations by claiming victory in the first Old Firm of the season. Rangers beaten heavily by Bruges, and pressure mounting on Russell Martin after just 10 games in charge. Domestically, things not much better. 3 draws from their opening 3 games and already 6 points behind Celtic. New striker Bojan Miovski starts straight into the starting 11. Also coming in, James Tavernier, Conor Barron, Mohamed Diamade and Mikey Moore as Russell Martin brings the changes from that midweek defeat. Butland in goal, Tavernier, Giga, Suter and Magoma is a back 4. Barron, Diamande and Aysgard in midfield. Miovski will be joined by Moore and Gassama up front. Celtic Champions League demise was on penalties to Kairat Almaty of Kazakhstan. Brendan Rodgers' side, though, flawless in the league, 3 wins from 3. An investment has finally come. New signing Michael Ange Bilwalski starts today. Honor Engels is also in. They replace Forrest and Yang. It's Schmeichel in goal for Celtic. Ralston, Carter Vickers, Scales and Tierney is their defence. McGregor alongside Engel and Hattati in midfield. Belavaski and Nygren will be either side of Maeda up front. At Ibrox, a 12 o'clock kick-off for Rangers and Celtic.
Thanks, John, and there'll be regular updates from midday here on talkSPORT. I'd love to be able to talk more about Liverpool, Arsenal and Brighton, Man City and Forest, West Ham and Villa v Crystal Palace, but we're out of time. That's it for Sunday edition this week. Up next, it's the warm-up with Max Rushton and Barry Glendenning.